Good evening, everybody. I do apologise. It's been quite a long time since I last discussed Making a Murderer and things connected with it. Obviously, a very sad time at the moment that Linda Cabrier has sadly passed to the grand YouTube studio above to be with the dude and others. And it is very sad that Linda has, as I say, passed away. I did know that she wasn't very well, and to be honest, my wife Eunice had been keeping in close contact with wee Wanda, and yeah, we had obviously a great time doing videos together and chatting out with videos. But of course, the 2019 trip to Wisconsin, the trip to Manitowoc and staying at the Rally House, unforgettable times. Hugely enjoyable, and bizarre to think that both Denise, the dude, and Linda are now no longer with us. However, I suspect that Linda would not be wanting us to, be mourning too much, and I'm sure that she would hope that we will carry on with renewed energy and vigor. So my main points that I wanted to make today were to do with a lot of people have asked me my thoughts on convicting a murderer. So the first thing I'm not going to do is to fall into the trap of Robert Herman, amongst others, and criticize something which I haven't actually seen. Yes, I've got some opinions on various aspects of it that have come to light, but I don't know what it's like to watch as a documentary. I haven't watched it. One of the reviews described it as stonkingly tedious, and I presume that's referring to the fact that they make a huge case of trying to suggest that Steven Avery is this terrible, terrible person, because of obviously the cat incident and the Sandra Morris incident, which culminated, of course, in his bizarre attack on Penny Bernstein. Except, of course, we then discovered 18 years later, or they discovered 18 years later, that it wasn't Steve, and it was a complete frame-up by Thomas Kasurik and his sheriff's department, and that they could have had Stephen released possibly 8 years earlier, when they discovered through the phone call to Andy Coleman that you've got the wrong guy. Anyway, they chose not to do that, presumably for obvious reasons. However, Sean Reck and Transition Studios first came across a Sean Reck documentary thanks to the lovely Linda, when she put on her YouTube channel the complete Murder in the Park video. I think that had to be removed when the authorities discovered that she had managed to stream it, and wasn't actually allowed to do it via YouTube. I once came across a situation, I was playing songs and YouTube just shut me down after 2 or 3 warnings. The video just ceased. But yes, the thing about the Murder in the Park is that it is a very, very good documentary. So credit to Sean Reck and Transition Studios for producing that documentary. That came out in 2014. It was so good that Netflix chose to stream it. Of course, Ken Kratz immediately realized that, oh, this is a good documentary, because this suggests that people who have got a that certain people can be persuaded to do wrong and go against justice. He certainly wanted to promote it as being an example of where support for an individual can go wrong. I suspect, though, that David Protas and his students, Professor David Protas, I don't know how keen they were on seeing Anthony Porter released from prison, and how keen they were on seeing our Story Simon put in prison in his place. Their main motive, of course, was to try and show that the death penalty was wrong, is wrong. And of course, that's quite a divisive issue in America. All I can say is, look, if it was meant to be a deterrent, it's not doing a very good job. There are some countries where they have the death penalty, where they have very low crime rates. Sadly, America is not one of them. And I can only go by the famous lawyer Bryan Stevenson, who's featured in the film Just Mercy, if you ever get the chance to watch that. And his iconic line is that we are all better than the worst thing we've ever done. And so he is strongly against the death penalty, as was, of course, David Protas and his students. What they went to do, the lengths they went to dismiss Anthony Porter's conviction, very worrying. The fact that the state just did a complete U-turn. All of a sudden, there was no proper legal process in this. They just decided to accept that, okay, if our Story Simon has been forced to confess, he must be guilty. But no, the Murder in the Park documentary, very good. I watched it and found it very, very interesting, particularly the bit early on when the investigators that had investigated Anthony Porter were then being sued. They were having a civil case brought against them, somewhat similar to what Steven Avery was doing to the Manitowoc County Sheriffs, and the horror of those detectives at being asked such personal questions about all their finances and everything, and the fear of losing everything. Some of you will remember an interview with Ken Kratz and Sean Weck, where they discussed the Murder in the Park. And as I say, I can only, I've seen it for myself, how Ken Kratz holds up Murder in the Park as an example of, I suppose, where advocacy goes too far. And he would point to that and say, "Oh, that's you making a murderer supporters, your Steven Avery fans, you know, they're just going too far." To the extent whereby at one point when he did his little YouTube videos, you may recall at the end of one of them, there was a black screen. But if you brightened the screen to its ultimate, then an image appeared. And I remember when it first came out, some people were suggesting that it was a picture of a deceased Teresa Halbach. It turned out, of course, it was in fact a picture of Anthony Porter, the man who was released by the courts in Chicago only for our Story Simon to end up doing, I think, about 15 years of a 37-year sentence. As I say, that film, Murder in the Park, came out in 2014. It was so good that Netflix took it on, as they did another one of Sean Weck's documents, a very good documentary, White Boy. However, I have no problem with Sean Weck producing a documentary, a 10-part documentary, no less. For me, all publicity is good publicity. I must say that from the time I first heard about Making a Murderer, the first time I heard about it was my daughter that actually said she was doing a journalism course, and she said, have you heard of a place called Manitowoc? No. She says it's in Wisconsin. I said, well, I know that Green Bay is in Wisconsin, but that's about all I knew about Wisconsin at the time. She said, have you heard of Steven Avery? No, sorry, no, I don't say it. Have you heard of this new documentary, Making a Murderer? No. But she went on to tell me a little bit about it and said that, well, she asked me the question, do you think the police would deliberately frame somebody? And my reaction to that was, absolutely not. They've got far too much to lose. It would be far too dangerous and risky for them to risk framing somebody. That was my opinion. And then she went on to say, well, Steven Avery's nephew, called Brendan Dassey, he actually confessed to the murders. I said, well, there you go. End of problem, what is there to discuss, But obviously it had affected Emily, because a couple of weeks later, she came back to Gala for a long weekend and insisted that Eunice and I sit down and watch this first episode of Making a Murderer. And of course, over the weekend, went through the whole lot, totally horrified at what I had seen, naively wondering, when is this story going to have a happy ending? When is somebody going to come along and say, honestly, guys, you can't do this. You can't convict somebody of murder when you don't have a crime scene. The burn pit was nothing to do with other than the scattering of cremains on it, and obviously the conflict of interest. It was just bizarre. It's funny how some people talk about the fact that obviously in convicting a murderer, Sean Reck does have better access to law enforcement than Laura and Moira did. However, Laura and Moira showed plenty of law enforcement activity, and really, do we want opinions of law enforcement? We just want, what did you do? What are the facts in the case? I don't think their sort of personal opinions are really, when you got people like Mark Wiegert on the stand, saying, well, they had 5 days to clear up. You weren't asked about that. Why are you offering your opinion? It's bizarre, biased. And of course, when it comes to law enforcement in Making a Murderer, sadly, we only get 2 clips of Conrad Pete Bates. But he is a very obviously no longer with us, sadly, but he was a well-seasoned police officer with years of experience, and he knows straight away that the big problem with the case against Steve was the conflict of interest. Now, I can't help thinking that for somebody like Sean Reck and his Transition Studios that have had a limited amount of success with A Murder in the Park and White Boy, you get these 2 filmmakers, Laura and Moira, coming out with this Making a Murderer at the end of 2015, but effectively, 2016, and the huge success that it was. I can't help imagining that there might have been a little tinge of professional jealousy. These 2 come along with this hit documentary, 10 episodes, so I don't blame Sean Reck for jumping on the bandwagon, as it were. And if you're going to jump on the bandwagon and you're into making documentaries, I don't know if it's too bad a thing to put forward this twisted, convoluted Steven Avery is guilty scenario. Just because that's what happened in Wisconsin between 2005 and 2007. Steven Avery went from being this exonerated person, you know, the poster boy of wrongful convictions, to Mark Gundrum dropping him like a lead balloon, and others, of course. So I wouldn't blame him for putting forward this other narrative. We've seen it before. I remember Sheriff Herman directing me to the series by Dan O'Donnell. I think it was called Rebutting a Murderer, and again, it was just nonsense. Bizarrely, as I say, when I first heard of Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey in a bar in Glasgow, I was quite happy with the fact that, well, they're behind bars because obviously they've done something wrong, and end of story. And then, as I say, Emily insisted we watch it, and in all that time, since February 2016, I've never seen anything at all that would ever make me think, oh, I didn't realize that. Oh well, that changes everything. And I might be wrong on this, and it might be that this Convicting a Murderer does go into some more of dealing with some of the evidence, but of course, Making a Murderer is 20 episodes long. Now, some people have said that the original 10-part series was biased in favor of the defense. Not sure that I buy into that, but I will appreciate that from the point of view that we hear the opinions of Jerry and Dean. But then how do you deal with Catherine Zellner's experiments and finding wood embedded in the bullet that supposedly went through Teresa's body and removed, along with wood and paint chippings, her DNA, and was found bizarrely 4 months after every single item in that garage was removed, put back in again. So I think the Convicting a Murder documentary, as I say, I wouldn't be too critical of Sean Reck for going with this documentary. For me, all publicity is good publicity if it introduces more people to the case. If at first some of them are led astray, then that they will soon be brought back on side. I always remember the famous conversation with Sheriff Robert Herman, who told me to watch this Dan O'Donnell Rebutting a Murder, and in a subsequent conversation, I said, "Well, I'm sorry, Sheriff, it's not changed my mind. It's not dealt with any of the major issues of this case." And I said, "Have you had anybody actually come up to you and have you recommended it to anybody?" And they say, "It's changed my mind." He said, "Oh yes, there was a lady in Manitowoc that had actually signed the petition pleading with then President Obama to look into the case and to release him." I said, "Oh, that's excellent. That's excellent. That's one out of however many millions throughout the world who were flabbergasted at the case," and subsequently pointed out that I was very pleased that obviously his mum, Mrs. Herman, had changed her mind. But that's just my sense of humour. I don't know who the individual was, but and I suspect that there's people in Manitowoc that, as I say, because of what they were fed at the time, that we sometimes refer to them as guilters. I would suggest that they don't understand what he was found guilty of and how that guilt was proven and the flaws in how it was proven. I would suggest that most of them are simply haters. Which brings me on to the fact, of course, that interestingly, in a couple of tweets that I've seen, Sean Reck has referred to our community, our Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey supporter community, the Making a Murderer community, as truthers. To me, that's very telling. He acknowledges the fact through that simple reference of truthers that is what we are. We, sitting in a, in the borders of Scotland, I have no vested interest in how really what goes on in Manitowoc, other than the fact, of course, that I've got huge respect for the family of Brendan and Steve and what they've been through, and would like to see the truth revealed, however difficult that might be for possibly certain family members. I don't know. We don't know. Kathleen Zellner is obviously doing her utmost to reveal that truth. And of course, we had the rather interesting news that Angela Superwitch herself has decided she no longer wishes to handle Stephen Avery's appeal, and has passed it over to somebody else. I don't think we should be cheering just yet. Let's wait and see what this new judge is like. He is a former policeman. We don't know. Was it a case of Angela just finding this case too much to handle? Was she told, you best drop this one now, because it's really starting to stink, and you're just going to drag yourself into a quagmire in this one. Best to hand it over. And I'm always reminded of the words of Steve Drizzen, who wrote to me in an email that some things do take a long time. It takes new people to come in with new ideas to get the wheels of justice slowly turning. Hopefully, that is what's going to happen with the appointment of this this Manitowoc judge, that will maybe be a little more impartial and not biased against Steve and Brendan. Like I said, I'm not going to criticize Sean Reck for seeing the Making a Murder documentary and thinking, can I get a little slice of that? Obviously, whereas Murder in the Park and White Boy have been streamed by Netflix had no wish to stream this Convicting a Murderer, and you've got to wonder why. As I say, is it because it is just stonkingly tedious and is just trying to rehash old arguments, the old arguments that as soon as Making a Murderer came out, Ken Kratz came out with this sort of 10-16 point bulletin as to why Stephen Avery was guilty, and it was just it was nonsense, really. This everything that he put forward, the sweat and DNA, the luring to the salvage yard. So, and obviously Brendan's confession. In all the years I've been following this case, I've never had my opinion changed. Bizarrely, we even hear that, when it came to the cat incident, did Steve take the blame for something that it wasn't just him that was involved in? I believe there was others involved, but of course, for the sake of the documentary, they just just leave it at Steve's door. Not really sure about that one. But everything that Steve did, he confessed to, he admitted to it. If when he ran Sandra Morris off the road, he admitted to it. He didn't try and deny it. So rightfully, that was a 6-year sentence, but that ran simultaneously to the the conviction for attacking Penny, and I'll say that was proven to be incorrect. Like I said, if it deals with because of course it's taken Sean Reck quite a long time to put together his own documentary, whether or not it covers the the stuff that was revealed in series 2 of Making a Murderer, I don't know. Do I intend to watch it? No, I'm far too busy to do that, unless somebody can point me to something in it that will completely destroy my what I've discovered about the case. And ultimately, I think if there was anything that completely destroyed Steven Avery's innocence, I think the first person that would want to know about that would be Kathleen Zellner. And as far as I can see, she ain't dropping the case anytime soon, and certainly not because of Sean Reck's documentary. No, that's what he does. He makes documentaries. And yes, sometimes there's no harm in being the devil's advocate, if you like. It's got people talking about the case. That's got to be a good thing. As I say, all publicity is good publicity. And if you get two people, one who supports the Kathleen Zellner narrative, and somebody who's watched Convicted of Murder, and it says, oh, he's definitely guilty, and it gives you the opportunity to politely correct them on their misguided opinions, then that's a good thing. But as I say, it's very sad that we've lost now Linda. However, I would urge everybody, please. The dude obviously coined the phrase "keep it classy" for Brendan Dassey, but I would make a slight alteration to that on behalf of Linda, and that would be "keep it loud and classy" for Brendan Dassey, because Linda was certainly full of energy and fight, and she'll be sadly missed. Anyway, I think that's all I really wanted to say for now. I've got notes here. I'm looking at them. I don't think there was anything else I really wanted to say other than sad about Linda. Credit to Sean Reck for his Murder in the Park and White Boy. As I say, they made it onto the Netflix streaming platform. Convicted of Murder, no, it's I don't know what the actual viewing figures are for it so far. I suppose in that sense, what Robert Herman said, without having watched it, was that if you want to watch it for entertainment value, if it had presented anything new, then as truthers, and as I say, I applaud Sean Reck for at least acknowledging that we are truthers. That's all we want. We just want to know the truth. We want to get Steve and Brendan. Well, we simply want Steve to be given the opportunity to go in front of a judge and have this new evidence that Kathleen Zellner has acquired, new witnesses, to be given the opportunity to at least present this in a evidentiary hearing, and see where that takes us. Having said that, I do appreciate the sentiments of John Ferak, who said that who wants to be the lawyer in Wisconsin that reopens that bag of worms and destroys the case, the conviction of Steven Avery and the possible fallout of that. I don't think any judge in Wisconsin is going to be keen to be seen to be the one that let all hell break loose. But unfortunately, that is what we would like to see in in a controllable way, but you know, I still hold belief that one day Stephen Avery will be the twice, will be proven to be the twice wrongfully convicted victim in this, and that the true perpetrator of the demise of Teresa is revealed. As I say, that's really all I've got to say on the matter. You can see I've got a certain individual behind me. He's always there, keeping an eye on things. Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? You know, the amount of time that has passed since first watching the documentary, and the people that I've met and spoken to, and to think that 3 of them that were in the rally house no longer with us. Bizarre. Anyway, as I say, on behalf of Linda, keep it loud and classy for Brendan Dassey. Bye for now.